Hello, I'm George. In this video, I'll be showing you how you can dub your assets into multiple languages in MKIO. There's a few things you'll need before you get started. First is an MKIO account. The second is your API key. Third, you'll need a connected storage account to your project. And finally, you'll need some assets in MP4 format. There's a certain type of format that the assets work with. These are the MP4 V4 format. We've got a guide below linked so you can see how to check what format your assets are in. The first step before we dub anything is to upload our video into MKIO. To do this, we're going to go into the assets page, click on add asset from local files, and then we're going to drag in our video asset to here. So we're going to upload our asset. We're going to choose our storage account, choose our storage container, give our asset a name, and then click upload. And there we go. You should see at the top that your asset starts to upload. So before we can dub a video, we need to make sure that the video has been encoded. This is necessary as it generates the necessary manifest files for the dubbing job to then apply that dub to the video asset. To do this, we're going to go down to video processing, transforms, create transform, give our transform a name. We're going to choose our transform type as encoding and use one of the built-in presets. In this case, I'm going to choose multiple bitrate 1080p. Click create, and now your transform has been created. The next step is to then apply this transform to the asset using a job. We're going to click create job, choose our Encode 1080p asset, give this job a name, keep it as normal priority, choose the transform we made before, select our input asset, which is our source MP4 video that we uploaded, select the video file, and then we're going to select an output asset to place the encoded video and all its multiple bit rates. In this case, we're going to need a new asset, so I'm going to type in a new asset name and click create. Once you click create, the job should start and you should see a job state set to scheduled, and then it will start to process. So whilst this job is running, the next step is going to be to create the transform necessary to do the dubbing job. So we need to create our dubbing transform. To do this, we're going to go again to video processing, transforms, click on create transform. We're going to name this. So we're going to scroll down to AI pipeline. And then in this case, we're going to choose predefined ACS VOD speech to speech. So dubbing from one language into another language, both as audio. We're going to choose our source language. In this case, it's English. So we're going to choose EN-US or EN-US. And then we can now choose the languages that we want to dub to. As you can see here, we've got an option called speaker count. If you know the amount of speakers in the video, you can select this here. And then this will give the AI model a better understanding of the amount of different voices, and it will be more accurate in processing those. There's also the option to turn on personal voice. What this does is the AI model will create a clone of the source voice and try to replicate that. And it should sound a little bit more natural, just like the original person speaking. I'm going to click create. So there we go. We've made our AI dubbing transform. The next step is to run this transform on our encoded asset. So we're going to go to create a job. Then we go down, make sure it's selected the transform we just made. Our input asset is going to be the original encoded video. So we select existing asset, choose our encoded English video, and you should see all of the different bit rates appear. You can choose any of the MP4 bit rates. I tend to choose the lowest one. They all contain the necessary audio files for the AI dubbing job to complete. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. Click select. Now we need to configure the output. I'm going to choose an output asset name that makes sense. In this case, the asset is going to store the dubbed audio files. You then need to agree to the data processing agreement and click create. There we go. You should now see that your dubbing job has started. The processing time for the video tends to vary, but it's normally around half the amount of duration of the video asset itself. So if it's a 10-minute video, it normally takes around 5 minutes to dub. Whilst your dubbing job is processing, there's a few more things that we can set up. When the job completes, you'll have an asset containing the different audio files in the languages that you selected. And we then need to be able to get those audio files back into your existing encoded asset. In order to do this, we need to use a track insertion transform. To create this, we'll need to use the API. To create your API key, you're going to need to go onto your account, click on the top right, go onto account settings, and you see an option to create a new API token. We can send API requests in the MediaKind documentation portal. So if you go onto API reference, the media API, and go down to create your update transform, if you click on the test request button, we can see here that you can send API requests directly through the docs. If we click on create or update transform, we need to enter our bearer token. Make sure you keep this a secret. Then we need to choose our project name. And then we need to select our transform name. So one thing to note with the track insertion transforms is you need to have one per language. So in this case, our dub job is generating 3 different languages. We need to create one track insertion job for each one of those languages and then apply a job for those transforms. This transform, I'm going to do insert Spanish. And for the request body, you can use our track insertion preset, which you'll find in the documentation. If we copy this, once we pasted in the correct track insertion preset into the body, and the display name, this is the name that will appear in the player when you click on subtitles and it drops down with a list of languages. This is the title of the language that we are creating. Now the language code is important, and you can find a full list of these in the documentation. We're going to keep everything as the same as the preset for now. Once our request body looks correct, we can then send this request. So we should get a 201 response returned. If we then check the body of this response, you can see that the track name is in Spanish, display name's in Spanish, correct language code, and our priority set to normal. So now we've created our Spanish insertion transform. We now need to do this for the other 2 languages, the exact same, just change the specific labels and make sure that the language code is set appropriately for the language you chose. As I mentioned, the next step is to insert those audio tracks into our existing encoded asset. We're going to go back to video processing, transforms. We should see that the API request we sent has added our different insertion transforms to our transform list. We can click on create job. This will be insert Spanish job. Our input asset is going to be the dubbed audio. Make sure it's the same one as the language transform that you've selected. So I need to choose the Spanish audio file. And our output asset is going to be the asset we want the audio file to go into. In this case, we want the Spanish file to go into our encoded English audio file, and click create. Insertion jobs are a lot quicker than the dubbing jobs. Once we've done the insert job, we can then go ahead and create the other 2 jobs, and you should see that their job state adjusts accordingly. So here we go. Our French insert job has completed. We can go to our encoded English output now. And if we go down to our tracks, test it back and see how it sounds. As is typical of any asset we want to play back, we need to create a streaming locator and a streaming endpoint. First, I'm going to choose a streaming locator, click add streaming locator. We're going to choose our policy and click add. Next, we need to create or start our streaming endpoint. If you've already created one, you can just start the same one, select it under streaming endpoints and start it. Or you can create a new streaming endpoint, which we've discussed in previous videos. Now we can test our stream. We can test the result in the embedded player in MKIO. Use the player's audio track selector to switch between the available languages. You'll notice that the titles are set to the same titles we set in our track insertion. And that's it. You've uploaded and encoded a source video, generated dubbed audio tracks using the AI dubbing pipeline, inserted those tracks back into the asset, and prepared the content for playback. For the API examples and detailed configuration used in the track insertion step, refer to the documentation below. Follow along for the next guide in the series.